Hey everybody, Nick here, and today we're going to do a little bit of disassembly and maintenance of this little guy. This is the Cricket Tighe Tanto, which is one heck of a name at the very least, and a pretty interesting knife. So just taking stock here initially, centering is a little bit off to this, well, the clip side, I suppose, and but the action is quite good, and actually it's very surprisingly good for a button lock sort of knife. So yeah. Anyways, let's go on ahead and take this guy apart. This is actually going to be a learning experience because I have never taken apart a button lock sort of knife before. So we're gonna be working on this one together. Should be a lot of fun. I'm looking at T8 here. Yeah, T8 in the pivot. Oh, that's Loctited. Let's see if this side comes. Oh, okay. So only one side of these comes free. That's fine. There is red Loctite on there, but it appears to have faded over time. And I'm actually going to go ahead and, well, not sure whether it's going to be a better idea to come at it from this side or from the other side. But either way, I'm going to need a smaller screwdriver to do that. I'm betting T6. Yeah, Torx T6 right here. Perfect. Actually, I'm going to come at it from this side. That way everything's roughly vertical. I'm working kind of on one axis only here. Whoa there. Hi there, blade. So the blade just dropped free from me. I think that screw is fully out. Now let's kind of containing the blade with my hand here. Pop this guy the rest of the way out. And I should just be able to lift this scale right off. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Whoa there. This is interesting. And very, very dirty. Holy crap, this is dirty. All right, so one thing that I want to immediately notice here is that there's a bearing race insert, but it actually goes on the inside of the blade facing towards the bearing itself. So I got to keep that in mind as I'm doing the takedown here. I need to make sure that that bearing race insert, oh my God, is this thing grody. Oh, and by the way, thank you to my buddies Frankie and Bud over at the Birdshot IV channel for sending this guy along. This is going to be a pleasure, and I think the action on this is going to be even better once I've come in here. So I'm using some 91% isopropyl alcohol going on here, just to wipe things down. There we go. Oh yeah, there's gunk everywhere up in here. So that'll be good. Then this button is going to be the next kind of question. I see. So this spring is held in there with some sort of a grease. If we look at it very closely, it looks like it's a white silicone grease or something along those lines. So, good. The button lock itself also, like the body of the button lock, serves as the detent on this knife, so that's the action's going to, I think, really be improved here if I put everything back together properly. So there we go. Yeah. I am going to clean the inside back of the button lock there, but I just want to, before I get this all greased up. So one thing I want to point out here, I'll do that once I've cleaned things up a little bit more fully. This guy is just tragic. Okay, clean here. The majority of my cleaning looks like it's going to need to be done with a Q-tip here. So, and then I'll use a fresh pad for the bearings. Wipe off your pivot here. Really hoping the action's going to be even better on this guy once I'm done with it. This is all clean. Okay, so that's aside. Now I'm going to move to a Q-tip here. Just put some booze onto the Q-tip. There we go. Run this along the inside of the blade here. I'd like to get behind this bearing race insert here, just so that I can de-gunk. There it is. So that popped out. Yeah, I can see there's more gunk up in... Whoa there. So there's a second little washer on the side. There's a second little washer on the side with this hemispherical opening over here. Which means maybe they put that in... No, come on, you little bugger. I think they probably put that in to maintain the tolerances a little bit more. Like, for instance, to compensate. Unless... Does this guy have one too? No. Okay. Yeah, so there's this extra washer here, which probably means there was a little bit of blade play, so they put that in there to buy a little bit more space. Well, actually, to not to buy space, but to change the spacing so that it would still work. So I just need to remember to put that guy, I'm sorry, put this little guy back in there. That'll be important. Those are the kinds of little hacks you'll see on knives that are made, well, they're not so super well made. Sometimes you have to take little steps to see that things work out okay. Okay. Cleaning this blade tang surface because the button lock rides against it pretty heavily. Cleaning the back side of the blade here. It's a little nasty up inside there. Can I get that out of there? Time for another Q-tip. This is a reason that you want to make sure you do your disassemblies on a clean surface, because if you've already got 50 other washers, an unexpected part might go under your radar. And then you put it back together and it's all wrong. It's all off. So, there you go. Clean that off. Now my blade is clean. Next thing is going to be to clean off these little bearing races and the bearings. I'm going to go ahead and start with the bearings. Take a little bit of booze, put it on a little fabric swatch here. Oh yeah, that's ugly. Delightful. This is going to run better. And again, oh, that's terrible. And I'm not judging here. This is something that happens to any knife that you use and you love. And if you watch the channel, the Birdshot IV, Frankie and Bird, who loaned this to me, you see that they use and love this knife a lot. It seems to be a favorite for them. So there you go. That's good. Now I'm going to go ahead and try and clean off this little spring here. On the inside, there's still a little third of grease, for lack of a better term. I'm trying to decide if I give a damn. You know, not really. I'll apply some grease myself here, but I could drive myself crazy trying to get every little last drop of that out of there, but I don't care. He says as he continues to try and get every last drop out of there. Okay, I'll just need to re-grease that. So there's that. Then finally I want to clean my bearing races here. There we go. Here we go. And here we go. All right. So, what's next? So I'm going to take out some Nano Grease. This is a grease that's made by the Nano Oil people. I don't necessarily know that it's better than every other grease out there in the world, but it certainly works out okay. Sorry, I'm trying to find my little oiler tool and it ain't happening. Where are you? Come on. Come to Papa there, oiler tool. There it is. It's hiding. So anyways, Nano Grease right here. You've seen me use it in other disassemblies. I hate the big syringe, so I moved to this little guy here. And then I can just hit it with the oiler. What I'm going to go ahead and do is, before I forget about it, I'm going to put this little guy in. Actually, I am going to use just a tiny little hint of the grease here in order to sort of adhere this in place. There's that. And then I'm going to do another one on top here, just again. This should make my life a little bit easier as I'm continuing this reassembly. God, the Nano Grease smells like boiled L. Not a big fan of that. Okay. Now I'm going to drop this on there. I'll need to make sure these are aligned, but the pivot should do that for me. No problem. And then again, I'll need to do that on this side. Again, I'm going to use a little tiny drip of the grease here. Cannot wait to cap this stuff back off. Generally, when it's in the syringe, you don't smell it as much because, you know, you're not using it. Oh, man, that's brutal. Okay, so, let's see. Let's clean the button lock. Oh, let me get in here real quick. Let's clean and redo the button lock side first. Yeah, because this is the side that came out. Weird. Okay, so step number one here is probably going to be just to put our pivot in. And I'm going to go ahead and use 10 weight nano oil on the blade, on the pivot here, as well as on the bearings. It's good stuff. There are many lubricants out there, but I like this just fine. Okay. And so I'm putting a nice, generous helping on there. Alrighty. Next thing, I suppose, is going to be to rebuild the button lock on this guy. Yeah. I don't know that this is going to be doable with the blade on, but I don't know that it would be doable without it, so let's give it a shot here. I'm going to use a nice generous helping of this grease here and just kind of layer it in to this little hole, which will help the spring from bouncing around so much. I may need even more than I'm putting in, but that seemed like a little much. Then what I'm going to do is just dip the tip of this spring into here. I'm going to drop the spring in. Again, lubricate a little bit going on up in here. Grease is sticky, which is kind of a funny thing given what grease is supposed to do. Then finally, I'm going to add a little bit of extra grease up in the top here, just so that we won't get rattling of this spring. I believe this should do our trick here. Now what I'm going to try and do, there we go, is just pop the button lock in. And hopefully the blade will kind of let it stay, or will make it stay basically at the moment. Pardon me. Next thing I'm going to do here is apply a little bit of your nano oil on this side, and then drop a bearing in. Button lock is kind of interfering with it, but that's okay. In here someplace is a stop pin hole. Now I'm going to go ahead and try and insert a stop pin. I'm trying to keep pressure applied. Oh, you little bugger. I may need tweezers for this. No, there we go. Stop pin is now in. That's nice. Okay. Are there any other pieces that I've got missing here? No. Go ahead and apply a little bit of lubrication there. All right. So, there we go. Now that's in. I need to make sure that everything seats. There we go. We're seated. Beautiful. So the button lock is, whoa, seated. This is very smooth right now. The screws are in, and so I'm actually just going to hand tighten this guy over here, just to get it roughly in alignment. Then that'll hold everything roughly together. I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of blue Loctite. This is blue Loctite, not red. I'm going to put the cap on this because, oh my God, no. That smells like it's taken years off of my life being open there. This is just a contact lens case, frog lube on the other side there. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of blue Loctite on this screw here. And put it in roughly. Then finally, I'm going to switch bits again. I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on the pivot itself. And then finally, here we go. Just spin this down. This is way too tight right now. And that's okay. Because I just need to relax this pivot slightly. Now that's too relaxed. Let's tension it back up a little. Okay, centering is not right now. Something's not quite right, but that's okay. I kind of suspect that my scale screws are just, I put them in at the wrong. There's a little bit of torque distributed in here, so let's go ahead and back this guy out a little bit. And let's go ahead and back this guy out a little bit. Now with that in there, the action is a little slower, which makes me think the pivot tension is a little bit high. That's better. I'll back the pivot off just a bit. You're learning with me here, like I said. There we go. So that's better. I'm kind of suspecting that what I'm going to end up having to do here is to wedge the blade over a little bit. That's unfortunately just a fact of life with lower quality, if you will, sorts of knives. I'm just going to, I don't think the fabric's going to quite do the trick there. Hold on just a second here. Little piece of paper here. This is a little trick I talk about in my centering video. It's sometimes what you got to do if you're really off center is to wedge the blade in the direction you want it to go. And then I'm going to give it a little bit more wedge. And then do the retightening, because sometimes that's really the trick that's required here. So there's that. Now I'll tighten the scale screws. Actually, I'll loosen them a little bit first. There we go. Now tighten. Now tighten. Now tighten. Now tighten. Yes, I could use a little more love. Hopefully, a little off center still. How's the action? Interesting. A little lock stick now. Which makes me think I need to put a little tiny bit of lubrication right where the button lock rests. The centering is still off here. All right, I'm going to do the bracing one more time. Unfortunately, this is the risk you always run when you take apart a Cricut. Or, well, I shouldn't pick just on Cricut, but any kind of lower quality knife. Because they are very often not built well enough that you can... Well, disassembly will undo the careful work that the factory workers did in making this knife look like it goes together properly. There we go. Ah, too tight. Little tiniest interblade play here. That centering is still not quite right. So, one more time I wedge the scale screws. The action's right where I want it to be. So that's good at least. And actually, I'm just going to mount, since I keep switching back and forth, I'm going to mount this bit in this little tool here. That way I've got the handle. There we go. Release. Release. Let's see what it's like with all the scale screws loosened up. Pivot's fine, but the... Yeah, centering's still way off. Hopefully I can get it back into that sort of configuration. That's really frustrating. So let me think about it. I want to probably secure it up here first. Up here. So really lock those down. And then over here, do the same thing. That's rotating now. Really? I mean, the centering was naturally a little bit off, but it was better than that. Well, this is frustrating indeed. Whatever magic they used to put it together the first damn time has been undone. Could there be anything I have done improperly here? So I put that little spacer in the place it was supposed to be. You know what I'm going to try? Since this isn't working out so well, there is one possibility here, which is that I actually, I swapped the, not the spacer, but the other bearing races. And so maybe, again, I don't necessarily believe that this is the case, but it could well be. And this could explain this problem. If I swap the bearing races here, the little inserts, oh, hello there, Lina. Nice to see you. But if I swap the bearing insert, and I got to make sure that the, well, actually the button just came right off. Hey, beautiful. But if I did that swap accidentally, and that plays a role in our centering here, we could end up with a situation where that's our problem. So this side is going to go on the numbered side, and this one goes on the other side. So I'll just swap this guy around. Come on. No, you go there. No. I'll drop this one on top of the one that had the spacer, because the spacer is still in there. Very often, that's actually the reason for these little bearing race insert things. They can help make up for... Ah, you little bugger, the stop pin just fell out. It's okay. I'm gonna keep pressure here. Oh, go into the hole there, stop pin. Alrighty. That's spectacular right there. Alright, leave the stop, put the stop pin back in. I'm gonna put this bearing onto the bearing races. I'm gonna put this liner. Oh, damn it. Gently guide this liner down onto everything else. There we are. Good. So that'll keep this stop pin from popping out, as well as keeping the button lock in its relative position here. Everything seems to be okay there. Now finally, drop on the actual plastic scale. I'll tighten over here. But anyways, as I was saying, sometimes those little washers are really designed to make up for a tolerance issue. Like, oh, it's a little to the left, so I'll use that. I'm going to re-Loctite the blade here just to be sure, the pivot that is. And then drop this in here. Let's see if this does our trick. It is better. Too loose. I reverse the spacer. The pivot actually is the only other thing I can think of. Initially, the pivot was facing the other direction, I think. So that's the last thing I'm going to try here, is I'm going to pop the pivot out and I'm going to try and put it in the opposite direction. See if that does the trick. Because again, we're looking at funky tolerance issues here. Something ain't quite right there. Well, we got zero blade play. The action is freaking spectacular on this guy at the moment. That's good. And the centering is actually better than it was, so I'm hoping that with a little bit more in the way of... This is turning into a marathon, guys. Sorry about that. But again, hopefully this will reinforce the point that I try to make regularly, which is that even if you're decent at this, it can occasionally be a little tricky. Especially on the lower end. That's one of the sort of paradoxes of the knife world, is that it's actually harder to disassemble and maintain inexpensive knives than it is to deal with the really pricey ones. Because the tolerances are lower, and very often the assembly process is where they fix their issues, so to speak. That's that. That's that. Now let's tighten this guy over here. Over here. Actually appears to be roughly where we had it to start with, which is... Could it be that the grind is asymmetrical as well? I think so. look at the top of the blade here. I think the grind is actually a little asymmetrical. Yeah, because the top of the plunge... Okay. Well, either way, we're back where we started. The action is actually very, very good now. I'm going to put a little tiny bit of your grease right here. I'll show you that. Oh, damn it, I need to open up that terrible grease again. Take another 2 weeks off of my life by breathing more of this stuff. It's okay, I drink Mountain Dew. This isn't going to be what kills me. And it needs to go on this side here, because that's where the button lock tends to land. Put that there. Beautiful. Beautiful. Alrighty, so, Tighe 2. Put back together, disassembled, maintained, total pain in the neck to do. At least to get the centering right, because cricket's a little bit entertaining in that way. But hopefully you still found this interesting, and you enjoyed my troubleshooting steps. Did my best to help out there, and, well, mostly that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.